On a warm October evening in Leland, Mississippi, the community gathered for one of the most cherished rituals in small-town America, the high school homecoming football game. This was more than sport. It was a communal ceremony, a convergence of memory and hope, tradition and pride. Former students returned to their alma mater, parents cheered from the familiar bleachers, and children darted across the sidelines with painted faces and plastic horns. In towns like Leland, homecoming is a seasonal rite of passage, a civic celebration where the school band performs not only for the crowd but for the town's collective identity. Homecoming is about reunion, belonging, and a reaffirmation of place. It is a declaration. We are still here and we are still together. Community. But on this particular Friday night, as the crowd trickled from the field and the scoreboard dimmed, that affirmation was shattered. Gunfire erupted near the stadium. In seconds, panic spread where cheers had reigned. When the bullets stopped flying, 4 were lying dead. 12 more were wounded, some of them critically. The field where joy had just bloomed was now stained with grief. The lights above, still glowing, cast their glow over a scene of chaos. And yet, somehow, we were not shocked. Not really. Not anymore. As the Friday night lights faded into the flash of emergency sirens, Leland became another name in a long, macabre list. Parkland, Uvalde, Columbine, Oxford, Santa Fe, places that were once unknown beyond their counties, now seared into national memory by gunfire. This is an American pattern. A celebration becomes a crime scene, a town becomes a headline, and tragedy becomes routine. As explored in Chapter 9, the Rambo Syndrome, this pattern is neither accidental nor inexplicable. It is a learned behavior, a cultural script passed down and performed, written like a theater act. In 2025, mass shootings have become so common that police departments nationwide plan for them as a matter of course. There have already been more than 330 mass shootings this year alone, 2025. This is not a statistical fluke. It is a result of a society in which firearms are not only accessible, they are ubiquitous. The United States, home to less than 5% of the world's population, possesses nearly half of the planet's civilian-owned guns. In Mississippi, as in other southern states like Louisiana, Alabama, and New Mexico, gun homicide rates eclipse those of America's largest cities. The urban versus rural dichotomy no longer holds. Violence has no geographical loyalty. It is embedded in American culture, and that culture has deep historical roots, stretching from the frontier mythologies of the Wild West to the cinematic fantasies of modern action heroes. From a young age, Americans absorb the message that guns are tools of resolution. In movies, video games, and even in the political sphere, the gun is the final word, the equalizer, the redeemer, the restorer of honor. When shame, rage, humiliation, or alienation take hold, especially in the minds of alienated young men, the cultural answer is neither dialogue nor therapy. It is retribution. And the weapon of choice is never farm. A Glock, AR-15. So many of America's mass shooters follow the same path. Humiliation, isolation, planning, and then violence. They learn from their predecessors. They study their tactics, memorize their manifestos, and often seek to surpass their body counts. In this perverse theater of destruction, each act is not random, but ritualized. And the American audience, tragically familiar, already knows how the script ends. The Rambo Syndrome is not about lone wolves. It is about American national character. It is about a nation that reveries the gun not merely as an instrument of defense, but as a symbol of freedom, of masculinity and justice. In rural America, to own a firearm is to belong. Not to own one is to be vulnerable, suspect, incomplete. Owning a gun is a rite of passage, a sign of being an adult, and a badge of inclusion in community. But beneath the surface of self-reliance lies a deeper emotion, fear. Fear of being disarmed, of being attacked, of being rendered powerless. It is a fear that stretches back to 1776, to the spectre of British tyranny and the founding conviction that no government shall ever rule us again. That fear is stoked relentlessly by politicians, by cable news, by the gun lobby, and by the stories Americans tell themselves about who they are. It is this American mythology that renders reform nearly impossible. Any policy proposal that even hints at restricting firearms meets immediate resistance, framed as an attack on liberty itself. The Second Amendment, interpreted not just as law but as theology, is invoked to block change and to absolve complicity. And so Leland mourns. Families gather at makeshift memorial. Students cry into each other's shoulders. Candles are lit. T-shirts are printed. Hashtags are shared. The nation briefly looks on and then, as always, looks away. Until the next one. But the deeper tragedy lies in what is lost beyond the lives themselves. With every mass shooting, America loses a little more of its social contract. The unspoken promise that you are safe in public, that your children will come home from school, that Friday night football is sacred. That, too, is eroding. That, too, is America. Because this is not the work of monsters from the margins of society. It is not a crisis of a few, but of the many. Mass violence cuts across race, class, ideology, and geography. It is not unique to Chicago or the Appalachians. Sometimes the shooter is a bullied teen, sometimes a jilted lover, sometimes a street gang member, and sometimes a disgruntled employee. And sometimes it is a self-appointed guardian of order, emboldened by stand-your-ground laws and fantasies of vigilante justice. Yet the result is the same. Bodies broken, families devastated, and a culture further desensitized to death. So let us not allow Leland to fade into the forgettable cadence of tragedy. Let us not respond with our thoughts and prayers, and then turn the channel. Let us recognize that the Rambo Syndrome is not an aberration. It is an American cultural pattern. And until America is ready to confront its mythology, dismantle its rituals, and rewrite its script, some of these Friday nights may well continue to end not in joy, but in blood. Because the battlefield of America is no longer overseas. It is the parking lot outside the stadium, the hallway of the school, the sanctuary of the church. And the time to act is not after the next massacre. It is long past due. Many imagine a different America. An America where homecoming means coming home safely. Where Friday nights remain sacred. Where children dream not duck for cover, where stadium lights shine only on victory, not on loss and death. But to reach that America, the USA must first confront its story. Yet, can there be another story? Can you really change a culture? Until the next time, I am Professor Gad Yair, and this is America.